Hey, what's up, friends? This is Brett, your host for today's bonus episode of the Rethinking Youth Ministry podcast. We're going to be talking about the Winter 2018 XP3 middle school and high school curriculum release. So if you're using XP3 or if you're not using XP3, we would love for you to pull up a chair. We're just straight going to nerd out about what's going on, what's coming up, what we've developed for this, because we're super excited about this. And even if you're not using XP3, you can learn more. Try xp3free.com. It's going to be in the show notes too. And maybe you'll just get some ideas for what you're doing or what you want to do in your context. So we're all employees of Orange, which you've probably figured out at some point. And we all work with XP3 students. So I'm Brett, I'm your host, and I'm joined with
Charlie.
And Charlie and I are both Orange specialists.
And Brett, what does it mean to be an Orange specialist? That we can peel an orange faster than anyone else?
Well, it's that when someone hands an orange, just a smell of the rind.
And you can tell how fresh it is?
I can tell you the freshness. I can tell the pH balance of the soil, all those amazing things. And I'm just kidding, obviously. So as Orange specialists, we are here to help people take this Orange strategy, all this stuff that we talk about, partnering with parents, leading small, and when it comes to specifically the XP3 curriculum and everything like that, and figure out how do you make this work in Davenport, Iowa? Or in Avon, Indiana. Shout out to my hometown.
Or on the dairy farms of Minnesota, where I have an awesome partner named Dave.
What up, Dave?
Yeah, who milks cows in the morning and leads students in the evening.
There we go. So Charlie and I are hanging out today. We also have Ashley and we have Crystal with us. What's up, Ashley?
Hey.
So what's your role with XP3?
Well, besides breakout and song pretty often in every meeting, I'm on the middle school team.
Very cool. And Crystal, what's up, Crystal?
Hello.
What in the world do you do around this place?
Coffee consumption.
Coffee consumption.
True statement.
Specialist.
And I work on the high school team.
Very cool. Awesome. So we're going to be talking about this season of winter curriculum that just got released. So what does the season mean for us at XP3?
12 weeks of content.
So 12 weeks of content. How often do we throw this out?
Quarterly.
Quarterly.
I feel like we're having a test, and I love tests.
Okay.
I'm a 3 on the Enneagram.
All right. So pop quiz. Okay.
Oh.
So how many weeks out of the year?
52.
52? 48.
Oh, you mean curriculum.
I got the right answer and I'm a 3-2.
So we release 48 weeks of content a year. How often do we release it?
Quarterly.
Which means?
4 times a year.
4 times a year. And how many weeks do you get?
12.
How many series are usually involved in that?
4.
There we go.
Wow.
That
was really impressive.
He was pointing his finger at me the whole
That
time,
was
people.
so intense.
I was.
Crystal got a pass because she got the first question.
That's right. I'm out.
And for all of that, how many XP3 curriculums actually get released with all of that?
2.
2. What do you mean?
I mean, there's a middle school and a high school curriculum, and they're different.
Yeah. So for years, there was just XP3 students.
This
right?
is true.
And then a few years back, we were like, you know what? Middle school kids are pretty cool. We should do something specifically for them. So we're going to be talking about not just the high school stuff that gets released, but we're going to be talking about the middle school stuff. And hopefully this gives you an idea, if you are a partner, what to look forward to, what you could be downloading right now as you're listening to this. Or if you're not a partner, what you have to look forward to.
And hey, if you're not a partner, I think it would probably still be worth it to sit and listen to this podcast, because if you and I were sitting across the table from each other at coffee, we would probably be talking about, hey, what's working for you and what are you doing and what are you teaching? And we would get ideas from each other. And I think this could be that for you. So by all means, feel free to borrow our ideas and steal them. Just don't sell them. Okay, cool.
Well, the thing is, just writing curriculum is awesome, but what about the cool things that we do, like the YouVersion Bible app devotions?
Yeah.
I've been working through some of those with my small group kids right now. Hello, way fun, easy to use, always on my phone. Love it.
I do love the YouVersion devotions.
It's so good.
Like, I like writing, but I think if I were still in youth ministry, like at a church, I would probably still write my own sermons and subscribe to a curriculum so that I could have somebody else like write the emails and write the devotions and do all my tweets and do all my Instagram posts.
Right, because full disclosure, I really kind of stink at using the computer. And I have no idea how to make...
Guys.
I know, it's true. Brett and I have tutorials all the time. But I don't know how to make an awesome Instagram video. And we make those. And so the best thing I've ever done in my ministry is have an Instagram account, because every kid DMs me through my Instagram. It's the best way to advertise what I'm going to do. And y'all, XP3 makes these killer videos for that and my Snapchat.
Yeah. So we could spend the next 45 minutes talking about all the different components and elements we do in XP3. The show notes is going to be gold for stuff like that. So make sure you check out the show notes if you're not a partner, or even if you are and you're like, wait a minute, what? There's what videos?
They do that?
So the show notes, we're going to have all sorts of links where you can check out all sort of those kind of pieces. So today we're going to be spending some time kind of hitting some big picture pieces of each of the series that are in this season. So Crystal, let's get started with high school. So what is going to be the first series for high school for winter?
Oh, I love this series. So one of the things that happens that's kind of magical for high schoolers that either actually happens or sadly doesn't happen in high school is a kid's faith becomes their own. Like often they'll come into high school with something their parents told them to believe, something grandparents told them to believe, or they just go with whatever their youth pastor says to believe. And at some point they have to make that transition from a faith that belongs to somebody else to a faith that is mine, and whatever they would call mine is what they take with them when they leave high school. So this series is called Mine, and it's 5 things God uses to grow a faith of your own. So we talk about things like relationships with other people. We talk about things like circumstances that maybe you didn't expect that God can use to grow your faith. Obviously, we talk about some spiritual habits. And then the last week, I think, is one of my favorites. We talk about doubt and how doubt is not a bad thing. Silent doubt is, but vocalized doubt is something God could use to grow your faith and make it more your own.
Absolutely.
Oh, I'm so excited about that.
Very cool. So would you guys talk about something like this differently to a 17-year-old than you would a 12-year-old?
Of course.
Oh, for sure.
Okay, so I know that that's always one of the challenges that I felt in youth ministry is that I had a lot of combined youth ministry in my experience, and it was really hard talking to a 6th grader and talking to a 12th grader about one of these things. And that's one of the reasons that we decided, hey, you know what? We need to develop a high school specific curriculum and a middle school specific curriculum. And so Ashley, tell us more about how kind of the middle school and the high school stuff kind of plays together and some of the ways that it's specific.
Yeah, so we took the same idea of what does it look like to grow in our faith or go deeper in our faith. In the middle school series here is a 5-week series called Deep, where we're talking about similar things that Crystal mentioned, except we're talking about them at a developmentally appropriate level for middle school. Yeah. So what does it actually look like to grow deeper in your faith and choose to take steps closer to a relationship with Christ so that you can develop an authentic faith of your own?
And your graphics are super fun for this one.
Thank you so much. Okay, I'm really proud of these because it was based off a story my friend Adam told me, who's a youth pastor up in Maryland. And he was talking about a story where him and his wife went on their honeymoon and they were going scuba diving, but she was too afraid, so she stayed on the surface on her like floaty inner tube and like a snorkeler and just watched the coral reef from the top of the surface
with her dive suit on and everything.
And then he went all the way down into like the coral reef, and then they were exchanging stories, and the stories that they exchanged were so different because he chose to go deeper and see it up close and experience it, where she had to experience it from further away.
I love that.
I do too.
That was our inspiration behind our art.
Wild. All right, so I want to get practical real quick. So, Charlie, what should groups that are listening that, for whatever reason, there's a lot of reasons that maybe people can't split into middle school and high school, or at least they can't do it right now. What are some things that you would recommend them to think about when it comes to all of this?
Yeah, I think if you're a youth group and you have a combined group of middle school and high school students, I would really start with the high school XP3, but add in some really great middle school teaching elements and some props maybe for your middle school students that can reach them where they are and still continue to reach your high school students.
Yeah.
You just don't want your high school students to check out.
Yeah.
So we want to make sure we have enough content for them as well.
Absolutely. And there are teaching videos that come along with this that create some awesome opportunities. If you're the only teacher, you can still kind of manage 2 different environments and you take advantage of the teaching videos. So we actually did an episode where we jump in depth. It's actually episode 28. It's called Should Middle School and High School Be Separate or Combined? So if that's you and you're trying to figure out, okay, could XP3 work for me, but I've got this or I've got that, then this could be a really helpful episode if you haven't listened to it.
Oh, hey, can I tell you one fun thing that we did a little bit differently this season? So our both of our curriculums are designed completely separately, but our offices are next door to each other. So when we were designing the set designs this season, we brought both teams together because a lot of our partners have one space. They might have services, but one space. Well, if you have to build a set, take it down, build it, take it down every week, that's miserable. So our set designs are meant to go together. So there might be a high school set that you then hang a new middle school sign over and it looks like a middle school set.
I love that.
Or everything for one series is done with things hanging from the ceiling that you just unclip for middle school and clip something new in for high school and you're ready to go. But the goal was to make that easier for one.
All I can think of right now is that GIF where that guy's nodding and he's pointing at his head. Like, way to think, guys.
Gifts are Brett's spiritual gift.
They really are, which makes
That is
podcasting challenging sometimes because it's not a great medium for gifts. But anyway, we'll move on. All right. So mine and Deep. So that's going to be the first series. What comes after that?
So recently we started doing something a little bit different. Most of our series go together as one cohesive series, but we also developed for this year a collection of standalone talks because there are some topics that are like really important to talk about.
Right.
You don't want to talk about them for 3 weeks.
No.
Right? Suicide and self-harm.
Not
No,
gonna
thank
happen.
you.
No.
I don't want to talk about it for 3 weeks, but I should talk about it sometime. So for high school, our collection of standalone talks is called I Have Questions.
Yeah.
And each time we release one, it's a new question. And so one of the first ones this season came from something one of my high schoolers asked me. Very boldly, she said, will following Jesus just make me unhappy? Which sounds like such a no-brainer for all of us church kids. Like, no, obviously. But that's a very real question for high schoolers. And in fact, while we're talking about it, this is one of the things that I didn't expect to happen with curriculum is that we expected when we had a middle school curriculum started that things would get better for middle schoolers, but everything had already kind of been geared toward high school. That actually wasn't as true as I thought it was. It's actually improved our high school content a lot because we can focus older. We're not focusing on the middle or the 9th and 10th grader anymore. So we can dive into some things that maybe an 11th grader is bold enough to ask, a 9th grader's not.
Right.
And one of those is, hey, is following Jesus going to make me less me? Or is following Jesus going to make me boring? Or is following Jesus just mean I have to be unhappy, but I'll be holy? Like, those are real questions, right? Yeah. Those are real questions. And those are the things I'm walking through with some 11th grade girls right now. Spoiler alert. We tell them, no, following Jesus won't ruin your life. But I think it's such an important talk. And we talk about John 10:10 and how Jesus said, I came to give you life to the full and what that means and how sometimes that may mean you're unhappy in the moment, but overall your life is better, fuller, more abundant, yada, yada. But I'm really excited about that talk.
Very cool. So what? Sorry, go ahead.
There's one more, Brett.
That's right. Sorry.
So we actually have two I Have Questions talks this season. The other one is my phone good or bad? Which sounds, again, like such an obvious question.
Depends on if it's an iPhone.
Like, right. Ooh, shade. It seems like such an obvious question, right? Like what 9th grader is going to say, oh, is my phone good or bad? No, it's good, right?
Right.
That's what we assume. But actually, in the process of writing this talk on cell phones, we surveyed some teenagers from around the country. We got about 5 different states, all high school students, guys, girls, different scenarios, and said, hey, if your youth pastor stood on stage and said, we're talking about cell phones, what would you think? And almost all of them said, please don't tell me I'm addicted. I already know that. I just don't know what to do about it, and neither does anybody else.
Wow.
And we were like, oh, you already know you're addicted? Okay. So we're just going to delete that intro and start with something else. So we came at it from the angle of hey, like phones, we know they're a good part of our lives. We know they're not going away, but we also all know our tendency to be a little bit addicted for it to create some anxiety in our lives. The question is, what do we do with it? And we spend some time looking at what Paul said when he said, everything is permissible for me, but not everything is beneficial. And figuring out the difference between something being good and it being good for me right now. So that one is really fun. I like that one too.
Awesome. So what does that look like in middle school, Ash?
Yeah, so our standalone series that's kind of spanning this whole 1 year scope is called Trending. And the reason we chose to call it Trending was not because middle schoolers aren't asking questions, but when it comes to topics like depression and suicide and heavier topics like this, middle schoolers don't often know how to talk about it, and they don't necessarily know how to form questions around it. But they see that it's coming up everywhere, that people are talking about, they're seeing it on social media, they're seeing it on TV. And so we kind of wanted to approach it rather than from a question stance, more of, hey, we know that you're hearing about this a lot, so we want to talk about it so you know how to talk about it.
That makes sense.
And we decided actually to cover a few different things in this specific season for middle school. Not that middle schoolers don't need to know if Jesus makes them boring, or if they're unaware that they're addicted to their phones. They might be aware in high school, but we actually decided to tackle the topic of bullying, which is something
so important.
So important.
We're asked all the time by partners, by parents, if we have resources when it comes to the topic of bullying, because as statistics are showing, 1 in 3 or 1 in 4 students report being bullied or observe bullying happening. And so we wrote these 2 standalone messages. They're both on the topic of bullying, but they're standalone. So they're 2 separate ones. The first one specifically talks about what is bullying, so everybody understands what does it mean, what does it look like, what are all the different ways this can transpire. And then who are the people that are involved? Or, there's the bully, the bystander, the person being bullied, and the adult in the equation. And what responsibility do each of those people have in different scenarios? And we really are, even down to the small group guide, trying to give our middle school students skills on what to do in different scenarios and situations. Trying to get them to understand that, like, when you talk to an adult about something you observe, like bullying that's happening, you're not like telling on someone, you're standing up for your right not to be bullied that way. And we kind of lean into the whole that we are God's masterpiece. And if we really believe that about ourselves and about everybody else, you would never hurt or damage or touch a masterpiece. And we kind of use
such a good message. Goodness.
I think 8 out of 10 conversations I have with middle school students revolves around some sort of bullying. Mm-hmm. And I think this is going to be life-changing for a lot of our youth pastors to actually speak into this and talk to the middle school students about it, and to equip a small group leader how to talk about it.
Right.
Absolutely. Yeah. And we use the Mona Lisa as the idea of a masterpiece just because we're trying to think of a piece of art that middle schoolers might recognize. Right. And obviously we have to explain what it is, but just like, if I start destroying this picture of the Mona Lisa, like what does that do in you? Because you don't really know it, but you know that there's value in it. Right. And so we kind of use that to make it more tangible and connect the truth to something concrete in front of them. And then the second week of bullying in this trending series is really about the topic of connection or disconnection. It was actually inspired by this school teacher who really was trying to be proactive about bullying in her classroom. And it was just so inspiring how she was trying to be proactive about looking for students who were disconnected, students who weren't getting noticed for things that they were doing, or students who weren't getting chosen by friends or looped into groups, and figuring out how can I help this child connect to someone or something, because the whole idea that outward violence typically starts as inward loneliness. And how can we as youth ministries look for disconnected students, help them get connected in an effort to help prevent bullying?
That's so real. In my head, I'm already seeing some faces who are always sitting out when everybody else is doing stuff. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Man, outward violence is connected to inward loneliness. I feel like that's tweetable. Somebody tweet that. That's really good. Hey, can I just answer a question that I think I would be asking as a listener? When I hear you talk about the bullying series, I'm like, man, that sounds so good. Why isn't that a thing for high school? I mean, high school still has bullying. That's still a very real thing that happens. That was actually something we debated on our team a lot. Right. And what the conclusion we came to was that high school bullying still exists. It just looks different. It's much more nuanced. It's less overt. And the older a kid gets, the less likely they are to call it or to recognize it as bullying.
Interesting.
A 9th grader might, but once you get into 10th or 11th grade, they just call it somebody being a jerk or somebody joking or somebody being mean, but they aren't as likely to call it bullying. So it also shows up in our curriculum, but it will not be as overt or as noticeable as a series. Yep.
So can I ask a question that might be helpful for the listeners? When you say we in that situation, so when it comes to the way that middle school stuff, the high school stuff gets developed, is that like Ashley locks herself in a room and she comes up with, she writes all the series?
Only if she's in a dark place.
Crystal goes to Starbucks and spends the week there.
Crystal's in the room next to me and we do knocks. Like we knock to
Morse code back and forth.
Morse code back and forth.
So when we say we as an XP3 team, there are multiple of us that are on that XP3 team, but when we say we as far as who all speaks into these series that get developed? Talk a little bit about what that looks like.
Well, when we say we as an XP3 team, it's definitely not just me and Ashley.
Right.
We have the privilege to be on those teams, but we sit alongside, between full-time staff and contractors, about 40 other people.
Yep.
Is that right? About 40 people who work on each series. And we meet together, both middle school and high school, and talk about our direction, where it makes sense for us to be a little more similar, where it makes sense for us to diverge developmentally. And then once we sort of have our marching orders for what the next quarter of content is going to look like, then we go meet with our specialist teams, like our middle school expert teams and high school expert teams, to develop content separately so that it doesn't lean toward the middle the way I think content can if you develop everything at the same time.
Yeah, I think also with the 40 people working on each of these series, 40-ish, I should say, it's really neat because they all come from different contexts, different denominations.
So many lenses,
rural context, urban context, and together we figure out where is the middle line truth here, because we write for over 70 different denominations. So if you're listening and you're like, well, they don't go far enough into this one part for my denomination, like we give you editable files for that reason. And we would love for you to insert what your denomination believes about that. But one thing that one conversation I constantly have is the middle school curriculum isn't just a watered down version of high school. So I love what Crystal just said, as we sit and we talk about what does this quarter of curriculum look like? Where are we going to be aligned? Like, just like, for example, the trending and questions, we decided to go in different directions. But we have teams of people who are middle school experts and high school experts. And it's not just 3 of us or 5 of us. It's 40-ish of us. And we figure out how to take a topic and break it down, not water it down for middle school.
Love it.
Gosh, no wonder when I wrote stuff when I thought I didn't need curriculum as a youth pastor, it was just mediocre. Because it was just me.
Well, honestly, that's something that this team of people really helps me with. Because if I'm writing it by myself, and I did for a church for a while, I wrote about what I wanted to write about. And I wrote from the perspective of me. And so I cannot tell you the times we sit around this table and have arguments about, well, maybe you think of it that way, but I don't think, or from my background, I wouldn't have said that as a kid, or I work with this group of teenagers and they don't buy that. Those conversations make us better and they're really helpful.
They are.
Awesome. And one of the things I love about the Trending and the I Have Questions series is this is actually going through the year. So if you are a partner and you use fall, you would have seen this in the fall season under some different questions with some different topics that they're talking about. So
I think
this
our
is
fall
also
questions, just for people who maybe didn't know, were race and self-harm. Really light.
Just easy topics.
Easy topics.
Just to breeze right through. Whew. But again, conversations we should be having, but a month-long series on some of those things just don't make sense. It's just not going to
A month-long series
practical.
on those things could make you start having issues with it.
That's true. It absolutely could. So when you hear about the spring and the summer content that's going to be coming out, there are going to be new versions of, so if you see like I Have Questions that's for spring, don't be like they're just doing the same thing again. There's going to be new questions. There's going to be new trending topics that they're going to be talking about for those. Okay, moving on?
Yep.
All right, so what's next for high school?
Christmas break.
Christmas!
Woo, that's right.
Pause, time out. Favorite Christmas movie?
Love Actually. Really? Did you just grimace?
Is it a Christmas movie or a movie that happens during Christmas?
No. Oh, all of the above.
I think that it could
that
be
is different.
whatever she wants it to be.
That's true. Charlie, it's
Thank
yours.
you.
Congratulations.
Elf.
Ashley. Elf, classic.
I have a runner-up, though, I'd like to say, too.
Okay.
Miracle on 34th Street with the Matilda girl.
Okay, so the newer one?
The newer
Yeah.
The
one.
reboot?
Yeah.
Okay.
I like the actual Christmas movie. Like, you'll shoot your eye out. That one.
That's mine!
Yes!
Oh, yeah, that's the best one. A
love
Christmas
the
Story.
lamp.
We need a leg lamp.
We do need a leg lamp.
Oh, that's not the Lampoons. The Christmas Story
No,
is
Christmas
the kid
Vacation
is the bunny suit.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay,
The best.
so what's going on for the high school Christmas series?
Okay, so the high school Christmas series, we laughed at ourselves the whole time we were writing it because it's called Christmas Break and it's about some of the brokenness we feel at Christmas, which doesn't sound like all jingle bells and like...
Just like the leg lamp in A Christmas Story.
It's a
Hashtag
little
broken.
bit like that. But what we realize is for a lot of high schoolers, Christmas can be really, really tough because eventually when a kid is growing up, they begin to notice sort of the cracks in the paint at their house. They start to notice that mom and dad aren't flawless. They aren't superheroes. And some of that brokenness comes out at Christmas just because they're there and they're together so much and they're bored and they're paying attention and they start to realize that like money is a real thing around the holidays. And there's a lot about Christmas that makes it feel like this isn't how it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
And so we talk about that in the Christmas series in as jolly a way we can. But we talk a lot about glory to God in the highest and what that means and why God's deserving of glory in all situations, but also what it says about God's character, that the angel declares peace and goodwill toward men. And in fact, that's our memory verse over the holidays so that students can remember that God is with them and God is for them even in tough times.
Love that. So for middle school, our Christmas series is called Joy to the World because, of course, anytime you can like work in the name of a song, you do. And week 1, we went in a similar direction as high school where we talked about just that Christmas doesn't always seem all that joyful, although you're kind of expected to believe it should be joyful. So like your expectations and reality don't always meet.
Yep.
And the bumper specifically for this series, we're trying to get students to see the world as bigger and like what does joy actually look like. And so we kind of played on the word world, where this bumper kind of takes a plane from continent to continent and you kind of get a glimpse of what does Christmas look like in all of these places. Like what does joy to the world actually look like?
Very cool. And for those of you that aren't familiar with bumpers, so a bumper video is essentially like a 60-second, almost like intro to the teaching time.
It is the best thing ever.
It's such a helpful transition. So after worship or after a game, you play this bumper, it intros the teaching, it intros the idea of what we're talking about, and then you can jump right in. Sorry, Ash.
No, that's good. And so as Crystal was saying, like week 1 is no matter what's going on in your life, you can choose joy because of Jesus, because of who he is and what he did for you. And then week 2, we jump into, this is a phase-specific reason, but we jumped into King Herod's character in the Christmas story and how King Herod tried to make himself the center of the Christmas story, which we're all guilty of, right? And what that meant was he wiped out an entire generation of boys, right? When he tried to make himself the center. And the reason we went in that direction for middle school is because middle schoolers are very much focused on themselves, which they should be in that phase, which is sometimes hard for people to hear because they need to figure out who they are, who they want to be, who their friends are going to be. So they should be self-focused. But when it comes to Christmas, if you put yourself in the center of the story rather than Jesus, oftentimes that leads to anything but joy, right? And so if you really want to experience joy and joy in the world, that's when you put Jesus in the center of the Christmas story. So that's what our middle school Christmas series is about.
Very cool.
At Christmas time, one of my favorite things to do is on Instagram, all my middle school friends post everything they got for Christmas. This series could not be any better, right? To be pointing them away from themselves and all that they have. Have y'all never seen that? The piles of tennis shoes and new clothes and...
Trust me, I'm like looking at it like trying to stay hip. I'm like, what do I need to get after this Christmas?
So a little clarifier, if you're not familiar with how our schedule works. So we do have a suggested teaching schedule that you can take these series and you can use them whenever you want to, but with how they get released and how they work. So our winter series, if it's helpful, that would set to be used on our suggested schedule, November, December, and January. So,
but you know what? If you want to teach Christmas in March,
go for it.
Let the Spirit lead you.
Yeah.
They could use joy all year long.
Yeah.
So it's no...
And their family's still broken. It's fine.
But for real, if you're listening, you don't have to follow our scope and cycle.
Right.
It's just a suggested one if you don't want to put the time in to thinking about that. We've thought about it for you.
Yeah, in our conversations, we have some people that are like, oh my gosh, I love it. You do all the work for me. I just get to show up, make things work, and it's awesome. And we have some people that are like, you know what? We kind of have quirky scheduling, so we don't really follow it. That's great. Whatever. We create what we create to make you the best at what you're doing. So however that works, however that fits.
However, one hack I will say for people is use whatever schedule you want, but maybe try to stay within the same calendar year. And the reason is I was talking to somebody this week who was like, I'm using this series from 2013 and the playlist is kind of dated. And I'm like, no kidding. The playlist, you're right. Like Party in the USA is done.
I love that song still.
I love that song.
Super
Easy
done
over
if
there,
you're
ladies.
15.
Which is another reason why we release things quarterly, is that we want the content, we want from the playlist to the graphics to be as fresh as possible for where you are in your context.
And if you don't know what the playlist is, we create an amazing XP3 playlist on Spotify that gives you all the latest music. And I don't know about y'all, but I don't always know what's the hippest.
Okay, and listen.
Because I love Miley Cyrus, so I don't know.
Listen, there is no shade being thrown at you. But
Good, okay.
But there are some other songs that are a little more current, and someone on our staff does what I think might be the best ministry of our team, which is they go through all the songs and cut out any songs that have curse words or sexual innuendo. So it's a whole playlist of songs.
I just heard
that are
a sigh happening around the world.
Right?
Everyone listening to this.
Secular, but won't get you fired. And here's a hack. They're free on Spotify, even if you don't subscribe to our stuff. So just search for XP3. You can use them.
There we go. Again, check out the show notes. There's going to be a lot of this kind of information down there. Okay, so we're down to the last series. It's the new year. It's 2019. What's going on in XP3 world?
Let it go. Let it go.
I'm so proud of you.
Are you?
Yes.
Is that the first time you've sung on the podcast?
It might be.
All right.
It might be. But, well, aside from being winter, the reason I think about letting it go is our first series is all about forgiveness.
All right.
And letting stuff go. And I love this one. I'm so excited about it. The first week we talk about the more you hold on to a grudge, the more it holds on to you. And if you're not familiar with how our teaching works, basically you can rewrite the sermon entirely as you want to.
Yep.
Or you can use it verbatim, but we give you some hacks and some tips and something called an interactive to make your teaching better. And for this one, we use a like one of those party favors, like a finger trap. You know, you put your finger in each side of it.
Yeah, Chinese
and
finger trap.
The more you try to pull yourself loose, the more it holds on.
Yeah.
Which makes a really good teaching tool. Also, if you could, when you're teaching, maybe not call those Chinese handcuffs because that's a little racially offensive.
Sorry
that
about
would
that.
be great.
Lesson learned.
Wait, did you just say that?
I totally said Chinese finger
Oh my
trap.
gosh, I'm really sorry.
Yeah, no, you're fine.
you say
No,
it.
call me out. Absolutely.
Oh, I really did not hear you say
No.
that. I was just
I
giving people a
apologize.
heads up about
No,
when I
that-
searched for them online. that
After
was the
I said
phrase
it,
that
I
kept
was
coming
like,
up.
probably not something you should say anymore.
Oh my gosh.
So
Well,
I'm glad you.
It's cool. I
I'm
just
glad
called
you
out Brett
confirmed
here
that.
on the podcast. But anyway, moving on. Will you forgive me?
Will you forgive me? I said
Because
it.
the more you hold
Yeah,
on to a
totally.
grudge, the more it holds on to you.
There we go.
Anyway.
And we just practiced.
Anyway, week 2, we talk about how forgiven people forgive and how the power of Christ's forgiveness helps us to forgive others. But week 3, I think, is so powerful for high schoolers because by this point, they have tried to forgive somebody and it didn't work. And they say, well, I tried and I couldn't. And it just keeps coming back up. And so week 3 is all about the difference between forgiveness and healing and how forgiveness is a decision you make, but healing takes time.
Yeah.
And you're probably not going to feel better. And we talk about what 70 times 7 really looks like in real life. So
I love the title of this. Sorry, not
Oh, I'm
sorry.
so glad I did
No,
say
I
it,
do
yeah.
because I feel like I live with a bunch of 19-year-olds and they say that all the time. Sorry, not sorry.
yeah, that's
What's
a
more
real
offensive
phrase.
than that?
And I feel like a lot of high schoolers feel like if someone's not sorry, then that it's just okay to not
Yeah.
forgive them.
Yeah.
So we talk
Yes.
about what do you do when they're sorry and what do you do when they're not sorry.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. So what does this look like for middle school, Ash?
Our series is called Over It because we've definitely used that phrase
Yes.
too. Like they just need to get over it, or I'm so over this,
Right.
you know?
Such a good title.
And so our bottom lines look like forgiveness helps you get over it, forgiveness helps you forgive, and forgiveness helps you heal. And specifically in this middle school series, middle schoolers are just becoming self-aware enough to realize that they need to ask for forgiveness for things because there's like something that's not great about them or they hurt somebody else's feelings. Like they're able to put themselves in somebody else's shoes and see it from a different perspective.
And that's part of brain development, right? For
Yeah,
the first
it
time they
is.
can see a third person.
Yep, absolutely. And with the onset of all of the emotions that come along with a dynamic where you need to extend forgiveness or accept forgiveness, it's really a pivotal time for small group leaders and youth pastors to talk to middle schoolers about this topic. And for some of you, this might be the first time a middle schooler understands what it feels like to experience forgiveness and what it looks like to extend forgiveness. And so these conversations, I mean, we spent a lot of time in these small group guides, like thinking through and imagining the conversations that could happen in these small circles and helping middle school students understand what it means to be forgiven and why you can use that forgiveness to forgive other people.
Okay, so just a question because I'm curious. Do you feel like you guys spent more time on these small group conversations than it? Because we feel that way in the high school team. These small group questions took a long time.
They really did.
Because, well, one, we try to write questions so that nobody's naming the person in the group they're mad at.
I think we made that note on every small group ad is like, we're not talking about people. We're talking about situation.
The gossip answers.
Well,
Right.
you know, there's some 8th grade girl that immediately turns and looks to the girl to her left like, hello, this was for you.
Oh, that was exactly what we talked about. We were like, oh, middle schoolers are going to be like, so-and-so did me wrong and so-and-so did me wrong. And then it's like, okay, do they realize like they also probably did someone wrong?
Oh, man.
Probably not.
High schoolers are more sly about it. They'll say, when somebody hurt my feelings, side eye.
Awesome. So that is the XP3 high school and middle school winter season. Is there anything else new coming along this winter?
Something that I'm so excited about.
Yeah.
As someone who's been in a church forever that had Sunday school.
Sunday school.
I know. Some of our friends are like that. We have something so great, and it's called our expansion pack.
Yes.
We get to carry on the conversation that maybe you were having in your midweek experience up to Sunday morning, and I'm so excited about this because it just takes a conversation deeper into Scripture.
Yep.
And we talk about it through our 4 lenses of hearing, praying, talking, and living for God, and I am pumped about it.
Oh, I can't wait for people to start using these because this past year, I feel like I had so many conversations with youth pastors who said, I have Sunday school and I have to have a different curriculum. And
Yes.
sometimes it says the opposite thing to what my Wednesday night saying, which is really awkward. Or we just let like Sister Lois say whatever she wants to say in Sunday school.
Sister Lois.
Which is a whole situation. So I'm so excited that they're going to be aligned and students are hearing the same thing.
Yes.
But it's not the same as small group, which is really fun. It's actually designed to be very different from small group. Questions and conversations look different because you can't assume in a Sunday school environment that the leader is a small group leader
Right.
or has a relationship with those kids or it's the same group of kids. But there are some other ways you can use it too. I don't know if we've talked about this, but I actually started using some of our expansion and pack activities with my own small group while we were at camp as a way to go deeper. So
Cool.
if you have a group of kids who are ready to try something a little further along or set up a second meeting a week to do more of like a Bible study, we were using it for that.
Yeah. Or we get feedback sometimes of saying, hey, you know what? I wish you guys would have gone a little bit deeper here in the message or would have gone this direction. And the expansion pack can be an awesome tool to just kind of give you some more resources for that teaching time.
That's
So,
super true. You can pull a whole section
absolutely.
of that content into your normal teaching
So
time.
our normal teaching times, middle school 10 to 15 minutes, high school about
12 to 17.
12 to 17 minutes. And so if you're in an environment where, hey, we want to teach 20 minutes in middle school, or you know what, we teach 30 minutes no matter who's in the room, then this is going to give you that extra resources that you need in order to build that out.
Not only does the expansion pack align with the XP3 curriculum, but it also aligns with our daily student devotionals, which are on the YouVersion Bible app.
Very cool. And so there is actually a blog that we're going to put in the show notes that kind of walks through all that, has a sample, has a link on where you can buy that. So if you want more information on the expansion pack, you can check that out. Ashley, is there anything else new happening with XP3 Middle School for the winter?
Yes.
What?
Well, last season we did this test run for a new style middle school teaching video, and this season of curriculum, all of our middle school teaching videos have kind of taken this slant.
Awesome.
Where we're approaching it with a more YouTube vlog style teaching video.
Yeah.
And the reason behind that is because all the research coming out about Gen Z is that 80 to 95% of Gen Z is on YouTube more than any other social platform that exists. And that they're more enamored with a YouTube nobody than they are a famous celebrity, which is very opposite of our generation. That's the word. Thank you. And we're really excited. We kind of incorporate bloopers and jump cuts into this as a way to kind of redirect and keep a middle schooler's attention.
Very cool.
I think it's way more relevant, and we are really excited to hear how it plays out in your either in your large group environment or if you're using it in your small group environment. Let us know. We're tweaking it every time we do it because we're learning in the process. So we want to know what works.
Yeah, and there's a blog again that kind of walks through all that. It gives you a sample of what that looks like. That's going to be there in the show notes too. So that is the winter preview of your 2018 XP3 curriculum. And if you're an XP3 partner, this is available today. So head to the My Downloads section after you log into the Orange Store. If you're not an XP3 partner, visit tryxp3free.com and you can just take XP3 out for a test drive. I promise it's not going to be as painful and annoying like the actual car buying process. We're going to make it fun, we promise. And reach out to Charlie or I if you have any questions at all, but not car buying questions, because those aren't fun questions and we might not be able to help. So Charlie at thinkorange.com or Brett at thinkorange.com. Those emails are going to be in the show notes too. And we would love to help you figure out what this could look like for you, how to understand it, where to start, implementation, all that fun stuff. So until next time, we'll see you in the Facebook group where the real fun is happening every single day. And so check out the show notes at rethinkingym.org for all of these links and all the fun stuff we talked about. Until next time.
Thanks for listening.